Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. So I'm doing an interview tonight that I've been really excited about, and at the very least, it's going to be an interesting hour for you. We're going to discuss a number of interesting things, not only about Manson, but about my guest's life and how he came to be known as Manzin. So anyway, say hi to it is Manzin, Manzin, right?
Yes.
Okay, and where did you come up with that? Is that just like a cute, basically just kind of a cute rip-off of Manson?
Yeah, it was a cute rip of Manson. That was basically my whole thing was like Manson, but not quite. So I just kind of spun the S into the Z.
Okay, cool, very cool. So yeah, I guess let's just start off by with you telling us a little bit just about yourself, and then telling us how you came to know Manson.
Okay. I was born in Ohio, super small town. Um, Kind of hadn't really heard of Manson. I heard Sweet Dreams on the radio driving home from school one day, and I was like, this is amazing. This is like super creepy. And I'm like, this is a very cool sound. I want to know more about this person. Who is this person with this voice? And I went online, my little dial up. It was like, 98 or something. And no, it was earlier, it was 96. And I saw his pictures and I was just like, and I started, researching and reading up as much as I could about him and just the parallels between our lives. And I started buying the album and his Antichrist Superstar. And then I went backward and got Smells Like Children and Portrait. And I just read the lyrics and I'm like, this guy gets it.
Mhm.
The people around me, especially in a small town in Ohio where it's like 99.85% white, like very Christian, very Norman Rockwell, white picket fence, like everyone waving when you drive by. It was very not resonant with anything I wanted to do, anything I was feeling. Any of my interests were not mirrored or appreciated or encouraged or supported there. And I'm like, what am I going to do? I'm stuck here. I can't get out. And then I saw Manson, and I'm like, okay, so this guy was born literally 40 minutes from where I live, and he did it. And he is this amazing person who's doing this great music that says so much and like, mirrors so much of what's going on in my mind, but also like, he looks incredible. Because as you can imagine, in Ohio, a lot of the gender binary is pretty strictly enforced. All the guys like drive the tractor and the pickup truck, and they're into cars and they play sports, and all the wives and all the girlfriends. It's just so like I want to wear makeup and do this. So I went into like I did a lot of the theater stuff and the piano recitals because music was my escape. And it just that wasn't quite doing it either. But then I saw Manson and I was like, let me see if it works better if I do it like he does it. Exploring myself through like recreating his makeup and his, I guess his costumes, you would call them, which was slow going at first. My first attempts were not great, but the couple friends that I had by this time I was in college. By that time, they were more supportive and more friendly, and I got more into it. And I started posting the pictures on Live. Uh, gosh, 2001, 2002, 2003, somewhere in there. And they started getting a little following. And I had more and more people. I ended up moving to Canton, Ohio. A friend of mine had an apartment there, and she was like closing her lease and said, "You want to take over my lease?" And I was like, "Yeah, why not?" So my partner and I at the time moved to Canton. We were there probably 2 years, which was it was fun. I was friends with some people in a Marilyn Manson tribute band. That was the singer of that band was Manson's cousin. Barbecue would go to the shows to support him, and I got the chance to meet them at the shows. And they were like, "You remind me of someone, but I can't put my finger on it who." And I was like, "Yeah, I've heard that sometimes." So we kind of struck up a friendship at the shows, and it was really fun. We got pretty close in the years that I was there, and that friendship primarily with Hugh because Barb took ill after a while. But I would visit you and he'd invite me to the house and we would go and just sit and bullshit and he would make me like little shrimp cocktails and we'd drink moonshine and he'd show me all Manson's old stuff. He's like, come and see this. It would be like the dolls from the portion of an American Family, like the big
So you,
Manson.
sorry to interrupt, but you would hang out with his parents? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. They were. It was fun. I would bake strawberry pie for them and take it over, and we'd like have dinner sometimes. It was fun.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Whole
What
house
were,
was a museum.
what were they like?
They
I mean,
were. Barb was very sweet. She was, shy and quiet, but she was kind of like she would sit and talk with us for a while. Like earlier on, she was very very nice. Actually, she gave me a jacket. She's like, oh, my shoulder hurts and I can't wear this anymore. But I noticed you have a lot of fuzzy jackets, and I thought you might like this one. So she gave me like this beautiful like a black rabbit fur little short coat that I like. It was just very nice to hang out with them. But like you're kind of like another one of our kids, kind of, but not really.
mm.
Whatever is going on with you. And I'm like, yeah, okay, that's fair. It was fun. I liked hanging out with them and getting to spend time with them. He would always shake his head, and I'd crack some joke, and he'd look at me and shake his head and he'd say, "You're not right."
I love
You're
you're
not
not.
right. Yeah, yeah, I know.
Don't you remember that? So when did you meet Manson, and did you get to hang out with him much over the course of, I guess, your acquaintance or your friendship?
I first met him in 2004. I was still living in Ohio. I was still in Canton. I got a phone call one day, just out of the blue, and the voice on the other end, who I'm assuming is one of maybe his press manager or something, was like, "Hey, Manzin." And I was like, "Yeah." They're like, "Marilyn Manson's playing a concert in Columbus, and he wants to know if you'd like to come down to the show." And I was like, "Let me check my calendar.
My God.
I'm gonna have to just go. Yeah, please let me come to this." So got all the details from them, and I hung up the phone and did a little screaming, and like literally, it was that night. It was like 2 in the afternoon, so I had very little time to get my brain settled and find something to wear. And I rushed down there, and the show was a blur. I had that little triangle after show pass and waited. I met my friend Ruby Cody that night, and I met my other friend Julie that same night. And I was hanging out with them, and they're like, "Okay, he's ready." They took me on the bus, and it was just like, there he was, his very tall, terrifying glory. Just like, and it was like ping pong, because the people on either side of us were just like, it was just this odd tennis game. But I had done a bunch of photos and taken a video of one of my photo shoots, and I'm not sure how the Plinko game of how that bounced down to him happened, like which hands it passed through specifically to get to him. I'm not sure if Hugh had anything to do with it, like, "Oh, you got to meet this guy," or what. But he's like, "You did that video. You sent in that video." I was like, "Yeah, that was me." He's like, "And you did like that shoot and that shoot." I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "You put a bunch of stuff in the background of that shot, and I really noticed that you like the detail on this was the detail that I put into that, and not a lot of people point out that detail, but you like noticed it and incorporated it into your shoot." I was like, "Well, you wouldn't put it in if
Right.
you want it to be noticed. That's what it was there for." And he's like, "Oh, I like that." He's like, "You're very tall." And I was wearing like those 6-inch stack boots, and I'm like, "Well, I'm wearing very tall boots." And he's like, "I'm not." And we are like nose to nose, and I'm like, "Yes, you were very tall." And I got to do my little rehearsed paragraph that every Manson fan has when you meet him, where you say, "I just wanted to thank you for all you've done for me in my life." And it's like, thank you for coming. It was wonderful to meet you." And I was like, and I got off the bus and it was shitting down rain. And I was like, "Oh, amazing." "Oh, I've been reborn, blah, blah, blah." So I'm toddling off, floating back to my car, and I hear this screaming start up behind me. And I'm like, I'm just going to walk a little faster. So I'm like, like walking super fast back to my car. And someone is screaming, "Wait, wait." And I'm like, "What the fuck is that?" So I'm like hurriedly getting into my car because I don't know what the fuck is happening behind me. And Rudy comes out with like this garbage bag. He's pounding on my window, and I roll it down, and the rain's coming in. He's like, "Manson wanted me to give this to you." He shoves this bag into my car, and I open it up, and it's an autograph, one of the masks that he did. It's an autograph mask,
Mm.
an autograph like an 8x10 from the Lest We Forget, when he's sitting on the couch in a blue suit, hair. And I was like, "Oh my God." He's like, "He wants all of your contact information." I was like, "Fuck, okay." So I gave him my landline number and my AIM screen name, all the stupid shit. And I kind of floated back home and waited excitedly for weeks for the phone or an email or something, and nothing happened.
And when did you hear from him? or
And that was November 30th of 2004, and I heard from him like middle of April 2005. Five,
not?
6 months later, I walked in, I was doing laundry, there was like 8 messages on my machine from him, and he was like, yeah, I'm trying to get a hold of you. I'm not
Oh
sure what
God.
time. And it was the voicemail had said, I'll try one more time at 9 my time, which was midnight, and it was like 10 till. So I, again, had just enough time to run in circles and scream at my arms and calm myself down. And the phone rang precisely at midnight. I picked it up and, oh, hey, man. So, totally just.
So okay, so when did Evan Rachel Wood come into the picture? And when was your first time to be around or to hear about her? Either to hear about her or to be around her?
He mentioned her in text a couple times. He was like, oh, I'm seeing, Evan. And I would see like paparazzi photos of him out and about. And I'm like, oh, he's got a new girl. Because I met Dita also when he was,
Oh, okay.
and he was still with Dita. And she
And
just
what was it like?
she was just sitting off to the side at the table, and she kind of did a little, she was very like disconnected from what he was doing in terms of meet and greet socialization.
Mm,
She was there, but she was either present but not there, or there but not present. Like she was
mm,
in the room but not checked in enough to be a factor in the proceedings. So I just very like glanced off her, and then she was gone. When Evan was in, he invited me to a show here in Detroit in I think it was 2007, August 2007. He invited me back, and Evan was there on the bus, and I was like, this is one of the first times I think that it had been just like the two of us on the bus. But it was Evan and he and I on the bus, and like his assistant would come in and out. But he's like, Evan, this is Manzin, this is Evan. And she's like, oh, hi. And I've heard so much about you. Like, she was very nice. She was congenial. She was smiling. She was like, oh, we should get a picture. So I got a picture with her. I'll send it to you to pop it up. So she took a picture with me, and then they got a couple pictures of all three of us. And then she's like, "Oh, we didn't get a picture." And I'd never had a photo with him. And she's like, "We should take a picture together. I want to just let me just see the two of you in one frame." Twist my arm. Ow, please, not that. So
okay, so you met Evan and hung out with them some then over I guess the next what couple of years?
next couple of years, yeah. That August, I met them, and then later in 2007, I went to the Halloween party. So there was that, and then I think they were still touring like 2008. Like, I think Great for the World. My timeline is all messed up. Yeah, I've seen Manson like around 80, some 85, 86 times, somewhere in there.
It seems like from what you've said that Manson considers and considered you during this time a friend. Would you say that the time that you did spend with them was fairly intimate and was fairly casual? That they or is it possible they were putting on like a show for you? Like, or were they being fake? Or did you get the sense that you were seeing genuinely their genuine interactions?
I always got the sense they were being very genuine, because it wasn't like everything's so great. Like the look how great everything is. Like I saw them when they were both frustrated. I saw them when they would like snap at each other and at others. Like, but every relationship is like that. So I didn't see anything that led me to believe that what was going on was for my benefit.
When you hung out with her alone for a number of hours, what was the setting for that?
That setting was she was performing as the nurse in something called Sleep No More in New York City, which is it's a very I figure out how to explain it. It's a really like it's a live interaction kind of a theater thing based on Macbeth. And there's the people that aren't masked are the actors, and you can follow them and like walk around the sets with them and like get involved with what they're doing. And if they're dancing or something, you can go dance with them. And sometimes they'll take you and like lure you away from the crowd and put you behind a curtain and like whisper some little secret thing to you. And that's just their moment to have. But it's very like free range and open. You can go many times and have a different experience every time. So the role that she was playing was the nurse. There was like an infirmary section set up, and she was able to walk around, but she had like a little. It was similar to like a small wagon with a door that closed, like a gypsy bardo that you would walk up into. And she was in communication with me the night before, me and my friend Nick Kushner, who I was living with in New York City at the time in Brooklyn. And she said, I'm going to do this evening. Where do you guys want to come out? And this is July of 2012, and they had been broken up for some time. And I was like, oh, I'm like, this is probably politically not the best idea because generally hanging out with your friend's ex without your friend is kind of frowned upon. I'm like, but kind of curious. And like maybe
Mm,
she wants to just talk shit about him. And I'm like,
Well, I'm glad you're honest about part of like your motivation, or at least part of your motivation there, because that's what I would be thinking too.
about that because I hadn't really heard a lot from her since they'd broken up. But also my motivation was like Sleep No More is like $100 plus a ticket depending on what time you get in. And I'm like, I went once and it was awesome. I want to go again. That'll be even more cool. And because she's letting us in, like we'll probably get to like maybe drink for free or something. I don't know. It'll be fun. It was fun. So
So tell me more about that. Tell me more about that night. Then anything interesting happened, or was discussed with Evan, or?
well, she did her performance part. Like she didn't do the entire show all night. Like it kind of winds down. There's like a general, like a floating plot that they do, and they do it a couple times over. And then at the end of the night, like it kind of settles down, and all the actors come back into the bar. And she came back and she found us after she was out of her costume and back in like just jeans and her little boots and a jacket. She's like, "Hey, what did you guys think? Let me buy you a drink." So we all sat. This was all being it was myself, Nick Kushner again. Um, Evan and her assistant slash sister Aya, questionable, I don't know. So we just kind of hung out and talked for a while. And she goes, "Do you guys want a little? I brought a little party with me if you guys want to just nip into the bathroom. Just here, take this." And like her assistant gave us like a little vial of Coke, and we're like, "Yay!" So we ran off to the bathroom, and as one does, and snuck back. Thank you. And we ended up shutting that bar down. And she goes, "I think I know an after hours. You want to come with us?" And we're like, yeah, why not? It's early. It's only 3. So we went to another club that was open until 4, and then they shut and they kicked us all out. And they're like, actually, we're a private club now. So it's a $10 membership, and that gives you 2 drink tickets. And we're like, okay. So we paid $10 each, and got back into the club and kept drinking. And we were out with her. We killed the Coke. I know that much. But we were out. The sun was coming up. It was like 7:30, 8 o'clock by the time we left that bar. So we were there all night. It was a long night. We were joined by some guy. I think it might have been a partner. I don't think it was Jamie at that point. I don't know who it was. It was some guy whose name I didn't face. I cannot remember. But another friend of hers met us at that bar after Sleep No More, and we kind of just hung out.
So Evan, you would say then, I mean, based on that Evan's a cocaine enthusiast. It's not because
She's an aficionado.
for those for those in my audience.
She's not like she's not an addict, but she just likes.
Oh, no, I understand. No, but for those in the audience who don't know why we're emphasizing this, it's because one of the things that Evan has claimed in the last couple of years, in her accusations against Manson, is that he had this terrible drug problem that he basically tried to force on her, and that she was forced to consume drugs and cocaine and so forth, and that she depicts herself as this very sort of like innocent person who just sort of swept up in this older man's web. And so that doesn't seem like the picture that I'm getting of her from you.
No, that's definitely not what I would say. I mean, there were multiple occasions when it was either that instance when it was the 4 of us hanging out, or instances previous to this, because this is 2012. Other occasions where Manson was in town, and he had nothing on him, and she took it upon herself to call a contact who brought drugs to our gathering, and it was just very intimate. It was the 2 of them and myself in a hotel room, and she called and had that furnished. But Manson has never pushed drugs on anybody. It's never made sense to me that he'd be forcing people to take drugs, and it's just not his way to force anything. He's always made a safe place where people can do what they want and be comfortable. And like he's always like, "Are you okay? Do you need some water?"
Okay. So backing up a little bit, I'm interested in the time that you spent around Manson and her. Um, how would you describe w- what you observed of their relationship? If someone asks you, well, what do you think of their relationship, or how do they get along, or what is their dynamic like?
Their dynamic, they was very cute. If you've ever seen one of those couples where they kind of, after a minute, they don't meld into like their own person, but they develop that secret language that couples do, where you
Mm,
have like your little voice where you like make the cats talk to each other, and like you are the only two laughing because this is hysterical to you, but nobody else gets it, and that makes it funnier. They did a
mm,
lot of that. They had a lot of like inside jokes. They had a lot of little asides and little like mutterings and gigglings. Like they were always like roughhoused a little bit. They were very cute together. They were very wholesome. Like I was just like, oh, look at you guys. It was very odd because it wasn't what you had thought, but he was just maybe because I hadn't seen him with Dita, so I didn't really know how he was in a relationship. But this was my first experience with seeing him like happy in a relationship with someone. And he was just very relaxed, and he was just kind of like a little big affectionate, like a teddy bear.
okay, now, did you ever see him? I feel like I need to get these questions, out of the way. Make sure I ask them. Did you ever see him being abusive to her, demeaning her, controlling her, belittling her, acting in any way authoritarian? Any of that?
Not no.
Did I think you had told me when we were talking on the phone the other night that you had a conversation with Evan about the nature of her relationship with Manson or what he was like? You want to tell me about that?
Oh god, this was back in June of like 2010. She was shooting Mildred Pierce, and they'd gotten engaged earlier that year. And Manson calls me. He's like, "Hey, I'm in town to visit Evan." Um, I wake up. It's like 2 in the afternoon. I wake up and my phone is like a string of text messages: 911, 911, call me. And I call him and he's like, "I'm stuck
Oh
in Evan's apartment. I'm in Tribeca. The air conditioning is broken. I think I'm dying. Please can
my
you
God.
help me?" And I'm like, "Yes, I will come help you." So me, who doesn't really drive very well in Manhattan, had to drive to Tribeca in the middle of the afternoon, which is like a clusterfuck at the best of times. And it was such a disaster, but I found they had her in an apartment. They rented an apartment for her. And I got there and I went up to get him and he was grabbing his stuff and we're, just talking. And he was finishing up like a glass of wine or something, and he was like dawdling and picking up some stuff. Maybe I should get this. Maybe I should get that. And he's like, I have to. It's like actually we should probably just wait for Evan because she's going to be here shortly. He's like, and actually the hotel that we're going to, I'm banned from, so we can't get in. So she's the reservation under her name anyway. So eventually Evan arrives, and I had to tuck these two people into like my little black Cutlass Supreme, my little black Oldsmobile, and drive them to like Tribeca, I don't know, somewhere in Tribeca, a big hotel in Tribeca. And they met us at the door, and I like tossed my keys to the valet, and we all just go walking in, and like the manager of the hotel's right there at his elbow and talking, and he's just like, uh-huh. They take us up the elevator into the room, and we finally, they're like, please let us know if there's anything that you need. He's like, okay,
Mm-mm.
I'll let you know. Thank you. Shuts the door and turns on. He's like,
Well,
don't feed the bears. I'm like, feed the bears? He's like, if you show them any sort of interest or interact with them, they will never leave you alone.
mm,
It was, around dinner time, 5 or 6 o'clock, and we just kind of hung out. That night, I think Manson had brought some absinthe with from the apartment, so we sat and we drank for a while, and we listened to some music, and we had like a movie on. And we were just kind of kicking it for a while, and my friend Nick got out of work and he came and joined us. So it was the four of us sitting, and Manson's like, "Oh, we should order dinner." No, actually, my friend Nick didn't arrive till after dinner. So he ordered room service for us, and we got some steaks, and I ordered mine rare because it was a nice fillet. And he's like, "Oh, you're gonna get worms," and I thought that was hysterical. Like, he was chiding me for my meat temperature consumption. So he's sitting around, and he's like, "I don't have anything on me." He was like looking for his pants, and he's like, "I don't have any." He's like, "Evan, do you have anything?" And she's like, "No, but I could." She's like, "Let me call." So she gets on the phone and she talks to somebody. And she's like, "Yeah, he'll be here in X amount of time." And in X amount of time, there's a tap tap on the door, and She goes to the door and opens it a little bit and has a conversation and comes back with cocaine. And I'm like, hooray, cocaine's here, you know. That's one
I
tastes
like,
good. Three cheers. So she deposited a significant amount of cocaine onto the table and we just started getting into that. And then Nick arrived, of course, the drugs were there and Nick was there, and we were up all night. Um, until like the next morning. Like at one point, Manson was like, she has to leave and I have to leave. So give me like a couple hours to just like have quality time. I want to have quality time with my girl. So he gives me some money. He's like, go down to the bar and just like drink and just hang out in the lobby, and I'll just text you to come back up later. And Evan was like, yeah. She's like, since you're going to be down there, well, he gave me money to go get some drinks at the bar, and she gave me her iPod. She's like, I have to do like the magic flute for Mildred Pierce. There's a bunch of like opera music on, but there's some other good stuff too. If you want to just take my iPod and just go down, you'll have at least have music while you're there. I'm like, okay, cool, because I don't even have an iPhone at this point. I was still like a little Samsung candy bar phone. So I put the little iPod in and I'm down there listening to just Evan's music. It was just kind of cool to hear what she was listening to, a lot of like indie stuff and pop
mm,
nice music. I was like, this is cool. And eventually he did call and be like, oh, you can come back up. So I came back up and they were just kind of, same vibe as before, very just chill, relaxed, kind of smiling a little bit at the nice little nap that they had or whatever they did. So it was just very, very nice. And it was getting later, and he's like, "I'm gonna have to leave soon." I'm like, "Okay, well, I'll get out of your hair." He was in the bathroom or something, and I had been like drinking and consuming narcotics for a significant portion of the day. Like we had started at about 5 or 6 o'clock, and it was now like again 8 or 9 in the morning. The sun was up, it was bright, it was squinty, and I was dying. I'm like, I've got to go home. I've got to go to bed. Somehow, I don't know how I'm going to sleep. And Evan and I were in like the bedroom part. He was off in the bathroom, and she was just like, "Oh, it was so good to see you. I really like spending time with you. I really wish we could do this more often." I'm like, "Oh yeah, that'd be fine." And I'm just like, uh, I have to ask. I have to ask the stupidest fucking question. I'm allowing myself one dumb question to bother you because I haven't asked
you
anything.
said this to her, right? Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, I apologize in advance for how like stupid and inappropriate this is, but I'm like, fuck it, I'm fucked up. I was just plain, I was drunk. I'm sorry I asked that. I was like, what is he like, like in a sexual sense? Is he like, I was just curious. I'm like, is it?
Right.
I'm assuming it's good. I mean, he's literally the godfather, but like, so how's the love life? How's the romance? And I'm like, is it just like fucking crazy? Because he seems like he'd just be like an absolute like a whirlwind. And she's like, honestly, she's kind of laughing. She's like, no. She's like, a lot of people, like, you would think that. She's like, a lot of people would think that it would be like all like the tourniquet video, like just craziness. She's like, honestly, she's like, he's very romantic, he's very sweet. She's like, we cuddle a
Mm.
lot, we kiss a lot. She goes, it's just, like, she's like, it's very vanilla. She's like, I hope it's not disappointing. I'm like, no, that's really sweet. I'm like, that's so, like, that does my heart good because you two crazy kids are just so like I like watching you two together and play off each other, and it makes me feel good that you guys are able to carry that over into like bed as well. That energy and that mutual thing that you guys have, that little vibe, that circuit that couples get. Like I like that goes on in bed as well. I'm like that's like I'm really sorry for asking that. She's like, that's fine. And then I had to be quiet because I heard Manson coming up, and the last thing I wanted to hear is him coming in while he's out of earshot and walking on me. So like, what are we with the hands? How like asking terrible questions about his sex life. So he missed that conversation. And I was like, oh, maybe a little disappointed. I was like, oh, I was hoping for something a little grittier than that.
Yeah. Well, and that's what everybody, assumes, right? And that's one reason why the accusers have been believed is because they're painting a picture of him that people just assume would be. But it, so just to like make it very clear and emphasize this to the audience, you're saying that you approached her, after you'd both been drinking, doing drugs, whatever, late night, relaxed, all a guard down, uninhibited, all that, and you asked her, you asked her what he was like in bed, and you asked her with the expectation that she was going to say, kinky or edgy or whatever. And in
Yeah,
fact, the
yeah.
opposite.
I was waiting for her to like turn around and be like, "Look at this giant bruise I got." There, like, not there was nothing. It was all lemon and no juice. And I was waiting for like a big something, a big sneaky, dirty
And she
reveal.
says the opposite. She says and
Oh,
she's even apologetic about it, and here's the thing. She had no incentive to lie to you, because the more interesting answer would have been to say that he's edgy in bed or even a little dangerous or whatever. And she even apologized for letting you down. And so she was telling you, like, someone is telling the truth when it's not to their advantage to say what they're saying to you. And so she knew she was letting you down. She knew she wasn't living up to this like idea that you and
right.
everybody has. And yeah, and so, and that's the same. And that's the same thing that some other women who dated him have said about him, like the Paula Vice that I interviewed on my channel.
Right.
um, that he's very, for lack of a better word, very vanilla, very romantic, very sweet. And this is also something that Rose McGowan said in her memoirs about, her memoirs, and she talks about him in there. It's something that that even Jenna Jameson said about him in an earlier interview, that she was surprised by how gentle and vanilla he was. Now she's gone back and revised that now that it's convenient, and she claims that he left bite marks all over her body. But that's not what you were saying, Jenna, earlier. But anyway, um, so and you said there was more to this story or something,
Uh,
or
it's,
there's you found out about later, or
there's a little more to the story because I when I was speaking to him and he said I'm in New York to see Evan. I'm like, oh, that's really sweet of you flying to see her. And he's like, well, yeah, she needed support. And I was like, is the problems on set? Is Mildred not going well? He's like, no, actually, he's like, she's having an abortion. And I was like, oh,
Manson's? It was Manson's kid.
no, it wasn't
What?
his. It's not his.
Oh, what?
Yeah. I was like, so I had no idea what to say. I was like,
So wait, they were still she and Manson were together, and
yeah,
he's saying,
yeah, it was Mildred Pierce. So it was June of 2010, and they had gotten engaged, I think, around his birthday that same year. But
and he told you that night
mm,
that she was having an abortion, and it was another guy.
yeah,
Uh, and how did and what did you say? Oh my God, I wouldn't even know what to say.
um, I really didn't know what to say. I kind of think I fumbled through something along the lines of, well, I know she appreciates having you here because
Good
that's very
answer.
difficult. It's a very difficult decision for anyone to make, and I just want to make it 100 million% clear that I am not in any way shaming her for the decision, or anyone for having an abortion. That is not the
Of
problem.
course.
The thing was, if they were in a monogamous relationship and she ended up having someone else's abortion, that's not the best look for her,
She
especially.
was cheating on him. Yeah, she was
Yeah,
cheating on him.
and
Yeah.
I don't know who it was. He didn't say whose it was. I didn't think it was my place to ask him who it was. But I did. I was thinking about this when they were like, "Oh, he's a psychologically manipulative, horrible, abusive fuckhead." I'm like, but if your newly engaged fiance is pregnant with someone else's child, and if he's such a spectacular artist of emotional pain, wouldn't that just be the most convenient weapon to pick up? Like, even
Mm,
if your partner is against abortion and you, the person carrying the child, want to have one, that can drive a rift and that can make a really shitty team. But he not only was not shitty to her, but he flew across country to be there with her for the procedure and to support her and to be there for her when she was going through this. And it wasn't even his. He didn't have to come out there for her. He could have easily, twisted that knife and made it into a wedge to, for like to browbeat her, like, well, maybe you wouldn't be feeling like, just however, like in a movie, like, if you've seen enough movies with an abusive partner, you would, twist that to their advantage and say terrible things. But that he wasn't. He was there. He was attentive. He was holding her hand and pushing her
So
hair out her face.
he was basically emotionally supporting her through through the consequences of her infidelity, to put it one way.
That's essentially what it was.
So when he said this to you, was what was his tone like? How, I mean, how did he say this?
He seemed a little tired, a little sad. Like I could tell that he wanted me to know, but not that he wanted to get into it more than just I'm telling you so that you know. But his tone told me that I really it's so much I don't want to get into it too deeply. So
Mm,
I kind of let it. I acknowledged that he told me something difficult, and I was like, "Thank you for
mm.
this information. As I haven't told anybody. Obviously, it was not something. It's not my news to share. And I like waited to see if anyone else would say anything in the news, but I never heard anything. She alluded to having previous procedures like when she was a teenager for some trouble, but she never specifically said anything about it. So I was like, oh,
Yeah, and for and just to be clear, like nobody cares. Neither of us care that she had an abortion, or have any judgment about that. It's but it's what we're talking about here is first of all that their relation that she's a very complicated person and that she brought her own kind of toxicity into the relationship. It seems, and
mm,
also that that far from being this abusive monster, it seems like he was actually such a nice guy that he was willing to emotionally support a woman after she cheated on him.
yeah, basically, he was very forthcoming with that. Like he took me aside, he's like, I just want you to know, and I was like, okay, good to know.
Mm.
Like, he's like, it's a tough time for her. I'm like, okay, well,
Is there anything else that we haven't talked about that you think is important or significant or that you'd like to mention?
there's actually a lot.
Oh yeah. Well, no. Let's talk about it then. That's great. What's one of them? What's one thing that you'd like to talk about?
I would like to address the Halloween party.
Oh yes. Oh, that's
Halloween
right.
party in Vegas. Yes, the I was underage at this party, and I was forced to consume quantities of intoxicants. But so this party,
That's what Evan for our viewers. That's what Evan Rachel Wood claimed. Yeah.
she had some claims. So
Mm-mm.
this was my first like Vegas Halloween party, my first trip to Vegas, my first like departure out to the West Coast, like for Vegas. I've like never been to Vegas before. So I did my costume and everything. And Manson's like, oh, we're having a party up in the penthouse. You should have Rudy bring you up later. And I was like, all right. So we go up to like the 26th, 27th floor and it opens up and it's just this like, I don't know, 3,000 square foot giant penthouse. And I'm just standing there like, where the fuck am I? This is crazy. And I hear like this squeal and this little blonde smear comes running and it's Evan, and she comes like running, like little TikTok legs all going running over, and she jumps and hugs me. Oh my god, hi! Oh my god, you made it! Hi. I'm like, how are you? Look at you. She's like, I'm Eva Braun of the Dead, and I'm like,
She was really into the Nazi thing. She was really into the Nazi thing herself, I think.
when she did a little turn, she's like, Eva Braun of the Dead. I'm like, clever, so clever. Look at you. But that was fun. And then Manson, I had brought him some candy or something, and we were just kind of schmoozing and hanging out. There's a photo that I think one of the people from the party leaked where he's wearing a purple and pink striped Cheshire cat hat. Manson's
Mm.
wearing a Cheshire cat hat, and I'm in a terrible state. And there's a guy like underneath us looking up like this, and that guy I think is a tattoo artist whose name is just flown right the fuck out of my head. Anyway, that guy was over the course of the night. We just kind of hung out, and I was talking to all the people at the party, and there was a pool table. I was shooting some pool, and there was lots of alcohol flowing around. I'd go look out the window because you can literally see like when Vegas ends and it just becomes black after that because you're up so high you can see so much. And Manson was over there in the corner, and I was standing by Evan, and the little guy who I referred to him as like Dr. Bonzo because he was very like Hunter Thompson, and he's like he gives this little powder packet to Evan. He's like, it's not a lava. This is Coke from Manson. And she takes it and she puts it in her bra. And my friend Rudy was there. He overheard this and he's like, hey, Manson told me that it was one of his dreams to do Coke with you. And he's like, I'm melting into the floor. And Manson's like, do it up. Come on, let's go. So he grabs me and Evan, and we like go to the bathroom, like down the hallway into like through their bedroom and into his bedroom. It was like a full, like a bedroom suite. And we're going into there. Like some girls are trying to follow us out and he's trying to kick the girls out. And we all end up in the bathroom, and it's me and him and Evan. And Evan takes the Coke out. She's dumping it onto the big, like, just the thing under the mirror. And she's tapping it out, and she's like chopping up the lines, and she's got it all carved up. Manson's checking his makeup out, and I'm checking my fucked up makeup out. We're all reapplying. And she's like, okay, here you go. We got our little straws, and Manson does his line, and I do my line. And I look up, and Evan's got like an eyeliner pencil. She's in the mirror, like. So she's scribbling on that little mustache, and we're like, wow, the word was wow. So we go back out to the party, and that was just, I was there watching her draw that on her face. And she said, oh, a lot of people were drawing on each other's faces that night. Somebody drew on my face, and I don't know what it was. And I'm like, but you know what it was.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Wait, so you saw her though. You saw her applying the mustache herself.
Yes, she had Manson's black pencil eyeliner and scribbled that on herself while we were doing drugs, not 5 feet away from her in his bathroom on Halloween night. And then she tried to parcel off that she didn't know what she was doing, and somebody else had done that to her, and she didn't realize what it looked like. So Miss Ava Braun of the Dead with her mustache that she has no idea where it came from.
Wow. Wow.
It's a lot. Wow. I was just like, oh my God, this girl.
She really, I mean, I don't, the picture that you not, I mean, you're painting of her, but it's not just you, it's what we know of her, and the way she's handled herself over the last few years.
Mm-hmm.
Really is, I think, a pathological personality. You don't have to agree to that, but I think there's something pathological going on there. At the very least, she has lied about a lot of stuff, and so far from being this naive innocent who was forced to do cocaine and who was forced to participate or in this Nazi, quote unquote, Nazi stuff, or dressing up like basically like it's all untrue. She was sounds like she was the most enthusiastic one there when it came to drugs, actually.
The only force that she was on Halloween was because she was not yet specifically 21 years of age. She wasn't allowed on the casino floor. So when Manson went to the Playboy Club, which was like the intermittent after the show, but before his after party, he went down to the Playboy Club and they gave him like the key to the Playboy thing, and all the bunnies came out and danced, and it was a whole thing. But she wasn't allowed to go in there because she was not 21. So when she says that she was underage, she was 20. She was not of age to drink on the casino floor, but she was drinking upstairs when we got there.
Right. She wasn't like 17, right?
Not 17. She was not teen whatsoever. She was 20 years old. And she was an instigator. A lot of people do really discount her because she literally, blonde hair, blue eyes, big round blink, tiny little pout mouth. And you look at that and you're like, oh, she's a cherub. She's an angel. At the party, we were, again, it was late. It was probably 2 or 3 in the morning. And Manson he had sent me out with her. He's like, go be me for a minute. I need to like get my wits about me, and just this party's a lot. He's like, go, here, take my girlfriend and go. And she's like, oh, hello, Mr. Manson. And I'm like, hello, Miss Wood. And she's like, well, you're my boyfriend. We should go circulate the party. And I'm like, okay. So we're holding hands and we're going to the party. And she's like, have you met my boyfriend, Marilyn Manson? This is my boyfriend, Marilyn Manson. Everyone's like, hello, Marilyn Manson. And I'm like, hello. So we're going around this party, and her brother, Ira, who comes running up to me, and he's done, I think he had some mushrooms earlier. He looks at me, he's like, can I bite you? And I'm like, sure, why not?
It sounds like the Wood family is the one with some kinkiness and perversion going on.
The Wood family. So he bit me, and I'm like, okay, so you bit me. I'm like, so if we're gonna do like a wood bite sandwich, then I should probably bite Evan so that it connects. And she's like, yeah, I got it. She grabs her hair. She's like, yeah, do it. So I give her a little chomp, and she's like, not bad, very nice. And then Manson comes out, misses the bite, and I'm like, oh, you missed it. Like he bit me, and I bit her. So she's like, I should bite him. So she bites Manson, and I'm like, oh, we got the circuit going. She's like, if we're gonna close it, she's like, Manson, you should bite Manson. And he just kind of looks at me, and she's like, you should bite him. You should bite him. And he's like, okay, yeah. So he like grabs me and like bites the crap out. Like I had a big lipstick mark like from here to here, like bit, and I'm like, I'll never see that.
Oh my gosh, what a night. Well, I mean, it sounds like basically like a dream night. But who knew that years later it would take on such unfortunate significance. But I'm glad that you're able to refute some of what she said. Again, I wish that I wish that someone would tell the other side of the story on this. I have been talking to someone at one of the tabloids and trying to persuade her. This person actually told me that this person is friends with someone who dated Manson, and
Mhm.
that this person's friend said that Manson was gentle and not abusive, and basically backing up everything that you're saying. And yet, what this reporter says to me is, but we have to we have to be mindful of the victims and everything. Well, they're not victims, they're lying.
What was I did see earlier that Marilyn Manson was like in the top 10 of like Googled celebrities this year or something. Like he's like,
Wow.
yeah, which is under better circumstances. I wish it
Right.
was under better circumstances. I mean, I wish that it was better for him, really.
I know. I know.
You know,
Hopefully it'll turn around eventually. But okay, so what else? What other? You said you had some other stories. So far, this has been amazing stuff. Anything else relating to Evan, um, or Manson and women?
I would never really saw him. I've seen him like play with girls and like a fun kind of like, oh, will you spank me? And he's like, all right, pat. But I mean, it's just like he's very giving. He's very generous to the fans. Like, can I get a photo of this? And he's like, oh, okay. Sometimes like you can just sign my tits, and he's like,
Right, right, right. There's nothing malevolent or about it, or creepy or abusive or anything.
I think sometimes the fans creep him out because sometimes they come at him a little strong, and he's like,
Mm,
yeah, I'm not going to do
right,
that.
right, right, right.
But at the
Uh,
same time, it's like there's a photo of him in Las Vegas when he did it was Magic versus Science. I think that he did with my friend Rudy Kobe, and somebody for some reason had a gun. I'm guessing it was like a prop gun or something, and they gave it to Manson. And my friend Tanya was like, hey, Manson. She's like, hold me at gunpoint. And there's a picture of him like she's like this scared, and he's got her on the waist with a gun to her neck, and she took that and made it her Christmas card. Like that
well,
was
I'm glad that you mentioned that about the gun thing, because and about the fact that Manson regularly encountered fans who were very, in various ways, very extreme in their behavior or their affinities or whatever. Because one of the accusations against him was by the stylist Love Bailey, and her big accusation was that at a photo shoot he pulled a gun out. Now, I don't even take what she says at face value. So I'm not, I don't even believe that's what happened, or it happened just like that. But if let's say we take it at face value, it may sound on its face bizarre to those of us who live in, the normal world. But you're just talking about how, he would have fans come up to him doing bizarre things, or a fan came up to him with a gun. Right. And so what's bizarre to us or strange to us may just be like sort of the normal thing that he's encountering.
I mean, he does do that. I was over at
Oh, he pulls a gun out?
he did not pull the gun. You say pull the gun out, it sounds like he had it in his pants and just like whipped it out and brandished it. But no, I was over at his house with my one of my former friends. This is the house over the liquor store, the apartment, and we were over there. And he's like, "Hey, check this out," because he just shot the Born Villain video. And as one does, you're familiar with people. When you get a new toy, you're like, "Oh, my friends are over. I'm going to show them all my toys, all my fun stuff that I got." He's like, "Check this out."
Right,
He brings over
right.
the case and he opens it up, and there's a revolver and a crucifix bolted to it from that video. Just like it was absolutely gorgeous. And it's a gun. I don't know if it's loaded, if it's a live weapon, if it's I have no idea. So I don't touch it. I just look at it. And my friend, meanwhile, says, "Oh, sweet," reaches in, grabs it, puts the barrel in her mouth.
Wow.
That was her first instinct, was to grab it and put it in her mouth.
Wow.
Our eyes, he and I looked at each other over her, and she's just like, ah, ah. And he's looking at me, and I'm looking at her, and we're like, and I'm like, maybe you should give me that. So that I took it off of her, and I was like, just holding it. Like, that is gorgeous. And like, I saw it from the video. I'm like, it's heavier than it looked in the video. And he's like, oh, yeah. And then he kind of put it back and made it disappear because is
I
that
see. I
holding
see.
a gun out?
He's not going around terrorizing people at photo shoots
Like,
with
he's just like,
guns.
that's not.
Well, like I've said it in some of my videos before, what people don't understand is that whenever something like this happens, like a big media event where someone like Manson has all these accusations against him, then then everybody, all of these people who have encountered him are incentivized to dig back into their memory and find some weird story or something that they can twist around. It was the same with Phoebe Bridgers and the rape room. Of course, Phoebe Bridgers is being sued for defamation now by another guy for making up stories about him. But anyway, the point is, like, whether it's the stylist Love Bailey talking about the gun at the photo shoot, or it's Phoebe Bridgers and the joke about the rape room or whatever, you've got these people who they want to capitalize on this for their own fame or their own advancement and to get some likes on social media. And so they pull out these dumb, insignificant stories and then they distort them.
What's funny about that incident with my now former friend and the gun at that thing is that she had her birthday was a following month. And
Are you talking about Love Bailey? I'm sorry.
no, not Love
Oh,
Bailey. This is I'm going to refer to her as Jane Doe number one. I don't want to say her name.
that's fine. That's
She's
fine.
very
Okay.
evil.
You're saying you know this person though? You know
I
the
know
Jane.
this person. 20,
Okay.
2017, this person posted. She was one of the first ones out of the gate, and she said that she had um, been invited to Manson's house for her birthday, and that he had kept her in a very cold room and had tied her up and cut her numerous times and had raped her and sexually assaulted her and abused her and then finally let her go, and that she hadn't said anything about it until 2017, where she filed like a sexual battery case against him with the LAPD. And there was all this whole thing. She'd self-published a bunch of blogs about it and on her own website, and like started calling the press and releasing this press release under her own power. She just wrote her own press releases and sent them out because she had learned to do that as her job. And what was funny about that is she was like, it was my birthday in whatever year it was, 2011. But what she's alleging didn't happen, because what had happened was it was her birthday, and I texted her, "Hey, happy birthday! How was your party?" She's like, "I went over to Daddy's house last night, and he gave me a new stereo because I guess her stereo had been broken or stolen." And she's like, "He knew that my stereo was gone, so he let me have one of his stereos. So I got a stereo, and I got to listen to the album, and it was so fun. It was like one of the best nights of my life. And he gave me like some birthday spankings, and it was great. I had such a good time." I'm like, I'm really
Wait, you're saying that okay, so you're saying that this Jane Doe person
person.
we who some people on the internet know who she is, but anyway, I don't want to point out her name, but this Jane Doe accuser, you're saying that she's lying about this abuse incident that she accuses Manson of, because when you talked to her at the time, she said that she had a great time and everything.
She had a great time. She celebrates her birthday for a week, and what she does, she kind of had like a cabal of groupies. Like she had a stable of groupies that she would like rent out to rock stars, like as you would as a booking manager. You would rent these people to go like dance on tables or accompany your band as like pretty girls in band. She was just like a fixer that put the cute girls with the cute band guys who would be happy. Um, Allegedly, not all the girls were completely of age, but I don't know what was going on with that. Anyway, she had the party. She had wanted me to come out and like MC this party, and I did that one party. I was not at this party specifically, but she got some of the girls and said, "Let's have a slumber party at this hotel that I know in West Hollywood." And it's one of the hotel that Jim Morrison stayed in. We're gonna have a seance, and we're gonna try to get Jim Morrison to like rise from the room to speak to us. And if Jim won't talk, maybe we can summon Marilyn Manson. And everyone was like, "Oh, I'd love to meet Manson. That sounds like fun." So she and all of her little cronies go to this hotel room, and she's texting and emailing Manson, going, "Hey, I'm at this hotel, and I've got a bunch of girls, and we're drinking, and we're all hanging out." And he's like, "Oh, interesting." So she's giving these girls, they're smoking weed. I don't know what they were doing, but they were doing their little seance. And in the middle of the seance, there's a knock at the door, and they open it, and it's Manson because he's bored. He lives right down the road at his little above the liquor store house. He's like, "Why not? I'll pop in." So he goes and pops in on the party. All these girls lose their shit because they had no idea that Lexa was secretly coordinating. Okay, hold on. Is that her fucking name?
You're fine.
Okay. Tap on the door. She opens it, and there he is. And all these girls are losing their fucking shit because they didn't know that she had been secretly coordinating with him, planning for him, and telling him where they were and when they'd be there and what room they were in, so he'd know where to go. So they thought she was trying to form a cult, is basically what she was doing. And these girls were convinced that she like literally conjured Marilyn Manson like right up from the floor. And they were just so excited. He's like, "Hey, you want to come to my place because it's bigger than this small hotel room." They're like, "Yay!" So they all went over to his house and like watched typical thing. You watch movies, you listen to the album, you drink a little bit. They all had a good time that night. So there were other people there. No raping or pillaging or drugging or beating or zapping or cutting. But all of these allegations that she put out into the ether in 2017 were before any other rumbles about anything came out. And then when the first rumble came out, was it Esme or was it Evan or somebody was like, "Oh yeah, let me see, let me pop up my wish list here." Whippings, beating, cutting. It was very cold. Did I say it was tied up? Tied up. Yeah, bad things happened to me. Like they took a page from her rule book, and it was like if one person said it, she wasn't believed. But if I can make my
Mm,
story mirror that story, it'll lend credence to both of our stories and make him seem like a serial
right.
person who does this a lot. And then all the other stories are like, "Oh, oh, that happened to me too. That happened to me too." And now everybody's got a blah blah blah. I do
Well,
that.
okay, so a couple of things, and yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out. Like and there's a reason. We know now the reason why their stories, their statements, of the accusers all sounded so familiar and so similar. In fact, at the time when all of these statements came out on Instagram and stuff, I said these were all ghost written by the same person. It's and then of course we found out later when Ashley Morgan Smithline admitted um, in a conversation with someone on Instagram that they'd written their statements together. But
When we all wrote our statements together. We're like, "Oh,
right. But one thing I want to ask you. So, I can understand. I can grasp what's happened with Evan Rachel Wood. Like, I think that from what I have observed and read about her and everything, I think that she's got some psychological problems and probably has. And my personal opinion is that she has borderline personality disorder. What is more baffling to, and those people, they write their own stories, right? What's baffling to me is just to believe that you could have a group of women who would be so cold-hearted as to make up stuff to ruin a man when they know it's lies. So I guess my question for you is, since you did have some kind of a friendship with this Jane Doe girl, um how do you explain what she's done, in terms of making up these horrible lies about Manson to bring him down? Like, how do you explain what's going on in her head?
I wondered about that for a really long time because it didn't make any sense to me, especially considering she'd been a fan since like Smells Like Children, like way, way, way back in the day. She'd been a fan for a very long time, and she was like doing music journalism, so she interviewed him, and they began. It wasn't like a friendship, but like I guess like an acquaintanceship. Like he knew who she was, and would occasionally like didn't like give her a pass or whatever. And he'd see her occasionally, but they weren't like friends. But he helped her get a job at one point at a record label that he knew. Like he did help her when he could because he's a very helpful kind of guy. He likes to do nice things for people. He likes to give people things. He likes to give presents. He's given me but just stuff. So it's like, "Oh, here, you might like this. Oh, here, this hat looks good on you. You should just keep it." And he's very generous in that way. But I didn't understand why she would shit on all of that he had done for her and make the story up. But I was talking about the situation to another friend of mine who was also my friend Tanya, who was also um, pretty frequently over to the house around 2011, 2012, the house above the liquor store. So she and I filled in and watched the gaps. And she told me a story where my former friend's Jane's name had come up, and he was talking to Tanya. I was not there at this time. He said, let me show you something. He's like, you need to be very careful of Jane. She's not well. You need to be careful
Oh,
of her. And she's like, what do you mean? Because they had been friends for a very long time. He's like, let me show you some of her emails. And he pulled out some of her emails, and she recognized Jane's email right away. And the content of the emails was stuff like, you know that I'm Mary Magdalene and you are Jesus Christ, and I'm meant to serve you and to help you in this life. Like my friend told me, and she's like, this girl is crazy. Jane had Manson's email
oh,
given to her because they were in contact fairly regularly, I guess. I'm not sure of the exact specific nature of like how often they kept in touch, but she had his email. And she would email him, I'm Mary Magdalene and you're Jesus Christ, and we're meant to be together, and I'm
oh
meant
my
to
God.
serve you on your quest, and we're going to rebuild the world in our likeness, kind of stuff. And he's like, be careful with her. And he said something similar to me, and that same night when we were over, when she put the gun
So
in his
sorry to keep interrupting, but I just want to make sure I'm clear. So Manson was telling you to, and this was before, way before the allegations or anything had gone wrong. He was
yeah,
telling you to be careful of this woman.
so 2011, 2012, he was telling my friend, our mutual friend Tanya Manson, and I are both friends with Tanya. He was
Okay.
telling Tanya about Jane when there was just the two of them at the time, and he said, you need to be careful for she's not well, let me show you why. And he showed her the emails of her saying this shit, and she's like, I had no idea that this was going on. I didn't know this, but that made me think, and I was like, that makes a lot of sense. Because he told you that because he told me something similar that night where she put the gun in her mouth. It was, again, we had gone over there at like 3 in the morning, and it was now like 8 or 9 a.m. That's typically how it is. You're over there and you get a call in the wee hours, and you're like, okay, I guess we're going over. And then you're there for a long time. And we were getting ready to leave, and he came and took me aside. And he's like, you know that you're always welcome. You can always stay the night here whenever you need to. My couch is always open. You don't have to go anywhere you don't want to go if you needed to stay. He's like, but I can't trust her, and you need to be
Mm,
of your friends. He's like, I'm not saying not to be friends with her.
wow.
I'm just saying you need to be careful of Jane.
Wow.
Why? He's like, if she wasn't here, it wouldn't be a question. You could stay as long as you want. He's like, but I'm not with her. I can't. He's like, I'm really sorry. I'm like, no, 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 that's fine. Thank you. And Jane and I kind of drifted after a while. And then when she broke out all this bullshit about Manson, everybody who'd been in her circle knew it immediately for the bullshit that it was. And we all like got together to be like, okay, well, I was with her this night, and this night, and this night, and this night, and like got a trail of all our stuff, and like we got all of our screenshots of the text that she sent to us and everything. We're like, this is bullshit, and we can prove it. We turned all that over to Manson.
Oh, okay.
Turned it over to whoever it was who was investigating. He was very briefly investigated because once they got the evidence, they're like, this girl is fucking crazy. This is not a real thing that happened.
Well, and I think too, like, again, and this is something I've been saying in my videos, like, I don't think people, your average person, understands how Manson, well, first of all, any superstar is going to attract a number of deranged people. That's just the nature of like celebrity. But then also because of the, the dark or controversial or whatever you want to call it nature of Manson's music and image and all of that, I think that he tends to, more than your average celebrity, attract some more emotionally disturbed people. I don't mean all of them, right? I love my Manson fans and everything, right? But I'm just saying that, like, it's a different crowd than, say, Josh Groban audience or something, or something, right?
Previously, a couple times, he's like, I don't know if he said that he was like flypaper for freaks. It just attracts all like the goth boss, and they're just like, I can see by your music that you're broken. I'm a little broken myself, and I'm going to explain that to you right this
Right.
in the face of this meet and greet. And he's like, oh, it's.
And there's nothing wrong with being broken. I mean, I would count myself in that category. But what's wrong is, though, unfortunately, a side effect of him reaching out to these broken people is also attracting like dangerous pathological people too.
It was very funny. The first couple times I started going to his shows, he would get reports about me. they didn't realize that I was me and that I was there on clearance, that I had my ticket, that he knew who I was. And they'd be like, Manson, that you got another one. He's out front, he's dressed just like you. Or you want me to? And he's like, that's Manson.
Mm.
He's like, I know him. It's fine. Don't. Oh, okay. Like he's like, every time I get new crew, they come back to warn me about you. He's like, it's funny.
um, okay, so what are some other stories? I don't. These are great. Is anything else that jumps out at you?
Uh, I do want to talk a little bit about the that night I assisted him in 2009. Just because
Okay.
a lot of the assistants are coming out and being like, he was an asshole, he was horrible.
So this is a good actually segue for something that you had brought up you wanted to talk about earlier, which is the two assistants who have come out with abusive stories or negative stories about him. And I was thinking about that because they one of them in particular was Ashley Walters, basically more or less described his environment as being one of like constant anxiety, that everyone is in his circle is constantly feeling anxiety, and that he's constantly like playing mind games with people, and he's abusive and he's impossible to work for, et cetera, et cetera. What do you make of all that?
I think that these people are kind of shooting themselves in the foot because a lot of ways I understand that Manson can be a challenge if you're used to working with someone that goes, I need you to pick up the butt dry cleaning, walk the dog, scoop the litter.
Right. Yeah, he's a mega star. It's
Manson
gonna
is
be like
kind of
a big job.
yeah, it's a big job, but I mean, this is a man who is like, I'm writing a song and I want it to sound like stampeding elephants. I'm writing a song that I want it to sound like a burning piano. He speaks in this manner. So people think they can cut corners with him. I don't remember which assistant it was, but one of them got into trouble because he had sent them to the store for some deli turkey. Easy enough. He's like, go to this store and purchase for me thin slices, 1 pound of this particular turkey that I like.
Hmm.
Okay, I will do
Hmm.
that. It's very typical for the assistants to go do the grocery shopping. So either they went to the store and they didn't have it, or they just didn't feel like going to that store, so they went to a different store and went, "Ah, oh, he'll never know the difference. I'll just pick the label off, and he won't know."
Uh,
He knew. He knew right away. He was not. So
mm, I see.
again,
Well,
that's a very simple request for him to make. I want this turkey. I am your employer. I want this turkey. Go get this turkey. You take it upon yourself to be like, it doesn't matter. But it does matter. You don't get to make that decision whether or not the turkey matters. That's Manson's decision on his turkey. He's paying the bills. He's running the show.
yeah, to just do something deceptive like that. I mean, that's very shitty. It's not a good personal assistant.
It's no, it's not good. So I understand like he's hard to work for. It's like if you would just dot your dot your T's and cross your I's, just do the thing. It sounds
Right.
but that's the way he wants it. And that's the way it has to be. And if you don't want to do it the way he wants it, then maybe you should go find somewhere else to work.
Right, right. Well, basically, what Paula, his former assistant Paula, said in the interview that she did with me, is that he could be particular, and like you would expect from a mega successful mega rock star, I would expect the highest of standards, and I would expect that if I were going to be a personal assistant, I would see that as like a 24/7 job, a job that's like full commitment, that's high stress. Like I would expect those things. And it almost sounds like he had these people in his orbit who thought they were buddies and that they could just kind of skirt by.
That is also a big problem. I noticed that with a lot of times they're like, "Oh, I'm hanging out with Manson. We're having such a good time." Like, "Oh, I'm gonna go work for Manson. It's such a good time." But
Mm,
once you're working, you need to work, and it's
right.
not playtime anymore. And sometimes he did test people. He would invite you over. He would hire you and then invite you over, and then you would have a good night, and then your shift would start. Like the next morning, you'd be like, "Okay, it's time to go," and you'd be fucked up. You're like, "But you told me to get fucked up." It's like, "No, I invited you over. You took it upon yourself to get fucked up, knowing you had to come to work the next day, and then
Mm-hmm.
you assistant because you can't even show up on your first day to do your job because you don't take it seriously because you would rather be partying with me than working with me. And this is not
Right.
do that.
Right. And you know what? I can see too how whether or not that was the best behavior on his part, or that was the best way of assessing people, it's really understandable because these celebrities, they constantly have people after them, for their own advancement, and people trying to like mooch off of them, and people who are too familiar with them and all of that. And so I could see how a sense of like those boundaries would become really a kind of a sore spot after a while, and how you would feel the need perhaps to test people in these ways.
Yeah, I found myself in a similar situation with that. We were over listening to the album, and he was trying to make a note about something, and I could see that he had the paper and he was doing the hand thing, looking for a pen, he was making like a pen shape and looking around. I'm like, this man needs a pen, and I found the pen and I handed it to him. And he was like surprised, and he was like, "You're really on the ball." He's like, "You might be able to use that." And I was like, "I could do it. I can help. I could be a helper." So he kind of took that into consideration. And then later he called me. He's like, "You want to come over and help me do like important evil?" And I was like, "All right." So I went over to his house. This was April 2009, and kind of hit the ground running. And he's like, "Okay, there's all these CDs, and these CDs go in that room." And I'm like, "I have no idea where that room is." And he would get so frustrated with me. He's like, "You're just running around making piles." I'm like, "Because I don't know. He told me to put these things away, but I don't know where away is. So I'm just putting them with other like things. So at least we know all the CDs are in this pile. I can figure out where they go later, but I know they've all been gathered. They're assembled here." And he's like, "You're just like a little fucking rabbit, making your little rabbit piles all over the house." I'm like, "Well, it made sense to me at the time." And he just kind of rolled his eyes a little bit. And I was in charge of like keeping track of his drinks, but we were going from like the wardrobe to the library to the kitchen to the backyard to the front yard to the bathroom to the bedroom. We're all over, and I'd always lose his drinks. And he would be like, "Where's the absinthe cans?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And he's like, "Okay." So he showed me how to make it. He's like, "All right, look, absinthe in the cup. The cup. You go to the refrigerator. You put it water." He's like, "It does the murky. Murky is good. Then you bring it back." I'm like, "Okay, perfect." So he's like, "All right, well, I'm done with this one. Go get me another absinthe." I'm like, "Sweet, I'm on it. Fucking on it." Get it. Absinthe in the glass. Looking at it, write them out. Go to the fridge. Put it on. The water's not cold enough. Not cloudy. So I bring him this shameful little cup, and he looks at me. He's like, "You have no idea what you're doing with this shit, do you?" And I'm like, "I did it exactly like you showed me. I don't know what happened." And he's like, just kind of rolls his eyes a little bit. But I mean, he was not. He didn't throw it at me. He didn't scream. He didn't yell. I mean, he was getting frustrated because he was shooting. I guess they call it B reel, where it's not like the specific like the main part of the video. It's just fill they put in or little promo bits that he uses to promote, where it was just him sitting in the chair like lip syncing to I think it was "Oh My God, then Motherfucking Get In" actually. And I was like kneeling and holding a boombox so he could have the volume. And he's like, "I'm not getting enough volume. I'm not getting enough volume." He's like smacking the top of the radio, and I'm like turning it up and holding it. He's like, "God, this fucking thing's not working." But I mean, he was getting more frustrated as it went on. He said at one point, he's like, "Look," he takes a deep breath and he's like, "I need to yell." He's like, "I'm not yelling at you, but I need to yell." He's like, "Please don't take this personally."
You know, what you're saying to me is he could be a demanding boss. He could be a difficult boss. It doesn't sound like anything different from what Ellen DeGeneres on her average day.
Yeah, I mean, he was a challenge, but I mean,
Right.
literally,
But not an abusive man. And in fact, it sounds like he was like surprised. He was actually like sort of extraordinarily in control of his emotions, to the extent that he was able to rein in like the inappropriate parts. He was able to apologize and say it's not about you and that sort of thing.
yeah.
Um, do you have anything like that jumps out at you that you feel like we really need to cover though in this segment? Is there anything else?
And then the only other thing that I feel like I really wanted to get into briefly would be I had a friend who lived in Canton who he lived very close to Hugh, and he'd been friends with Hugh and Barb for a while, and he would go over there.
Man's parents.
Benson's parents, yes,
Yeah.
he'd like go to the store for them or like mow their lawn for them, like just kind of look out for them. And if he would travel, he'd like go over and like watch over the house and feed the dogs, like Bert and Ernie, he'd feed the dogs. I don't want to name his name because I haven't
That's
spoken.
fine.
But he told me that had spoken to Hugh because Hugh would frequently like to talk to people that knew Manson and just kind of talk like off the record about stuff. But what he had said, he said, so Huey and me were hot talking about his new girl, Evan. And he's like, "Have you met her yet?" I was like, "No, no, not yet." He's like, "I don't know if I like her." I'm like, what's up with her?" He's like, he's like, "You can tell that he's really, really into her." But I'm like, Like Hugh mentioned, he's like, I didn't want to say anything, but Hugh mentioned it to me. He's like, I feel like she's really manipulative. And I put my finger on how he's like that. She's like got Brian. We always call him Brian. He's got Brian like wrapped around her finger, and she's just like needling it, and then like he's like not really acting like himself, and we can't figure out what
Oh,
she's like. She's doing. She's like working on him somehow, and we can't.
wow.
Different. There's something.
So a mutual friend was telling you that Manson's father was saying that he was worried that Evan was manipulative, and they were saying that Manson was not like himself around her or with her.
Yeah, they're like, there's something is going on. They just weren't really sure what it was. And they're like, well, it's new, it's a good relationship. He seems happy. We want to be supportive of our son, but we don't fully trust her. She's young, and she just something is not quite right. But I don't know. She was a child actor, and child actors usually do have a significant level of maturity way before other people. So I don't know if that's a weirdness that they were picking up on, or I wasn't there. I don't really know.
Well, they were picking up on something real, because I mean, look at what she's turned out to be capable of. I'm glad, I mean, I hate that Manson's parents are not alive, but I'm also glad that they didn't have to see this. Like they died before any of this happened, right? Any of these allegations came out?
Several years ago. I don't remember the exact time frame of when, but yeah, they missed a lot of this, which is for the better.
Yeah. God, yeah. It really has been the perfect storm. It's something that one day someone will write a book on it. I've been in contact with a documentary film crew based out of the UK, and they're putting together a documentary on cancel culture, and they're doing, I think, an episode on Manson, and they're actually interested in showing the other side of the story. But my point is that this is for anyone who, and I'm speaking out there to, if there's anybody in the media, in the mainstream media, tabloid or not tabloid, who has some balls, there's a story here for you. And it's a story that one day people are going to look back and be like, that was crazy that you had this orchestrated hoax of multiple people against this man, and then it became this media pylon. And anyway, it's just the truth is really much more fascinating than the lies. And if there's anyone out there in the mainstream media, if you have some balls to cover it, I think that you'll be glad one day that you did. But in the meantime, I'm really appreciative that people like you, Manzin, have the courage to come out, and hopefully you doing this, will give someone else courage, and maybe there'll be a kind of a sea change in some of this. But thank you so much. And yeah, so to my fans out there, just a reminder that I do depend solely on fan support. I'm not paid by Marilyn Manson or anyone associated with him. I'm only paid by fans, and so any contribution to my PayPal or Patreon is very appreciated. And yeah, and I'm going to have more videos coming out on this topic, and I'm just going to keep on it until finally the mainstream media one day gets the message. All right. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you later. Do you want to sign us out? Say goodbye, Manzin?
Bye, Manzin.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.